Good morning. Today we are close reading for the third time, Uprising. As we do so, we're going to focus on a central question. Number 1, how do readers know what to believe? Number 4, what is literary text really about? And number 5, how does interaction with text provoke thinking and response? As we close read, we're going to be reading the text for 3 times. First, for what the text says, second, for how the text says it, and lastly, for why the text matters. As you read through for what the text says, you're going to be reading through these 3 brief sections from Uprising, creating an objective summary for each of the sections. Please remember that as we create objective summaries of the text, we're looking at learning target number 5, to create an objective summary of the text. Our objective summaries should be objective, which means they do not contain any personal opinions. They only include the facts of the piece that are all centered around the plot and conflict of the fiction. We should also make sure in our summaries that we're not quoting text evidence. This should be fully in your own words. After we read for what the text says, we're going to read for phase 2, for how the text says it. As you reread the section, you're rereading the section, looking for how does the author highlight the difference in the points of view between Jane and the other girls. Cite text evidence to support your response. As you read for this phase, we're going to focus in on Jane's point of view versus the other 2 girls. Begin your response with the author contrasts Jane's point of view from the other 2 girls by, and then pick one, providing, including, comparing, describing, or showing what. Remember, the ellipse means that you finish off the sentence with your full answer in this claim, and then you follow that claim with your cited text evidence and your analysis. As we complete this phase of the text, we're going to be focusing in, again, just like yesterday, on learning target number 8, to analyze how the author contrasts the points of view of different characters in a text. Remember, that means to look closely at specific features or parts that the author incorporates into their text to show what's different about one character or point of view and perspective versus the other character's point of view perspective. Again, you want to make sure you finish off that sentence starter by explaining what that specific feature is that the author includes to showcase that difference, that comparison between the 2 characters, between Jane and the other 2 girls. As we also do that, when you create that claim, you are Number 2, making claims in the form of inferences, conclusions, or generalizations drawn from the text. This is your claim. It's your educated guess based on what the text says in the text evidence. So lead with that full sentence claim, follow that full sentence claim with your proof, what you found in the cited evidence to support your response, and then follow that cited text evidence with your full sentence analysis, where you're connecting your evidence to your claim and showing the things that you noticed in your own words that showcased itself in that evidence that you picked. Then lastly, we're going to read through the text the final time for why the text matters. As you reread these points of view from Uprising, you're going to be rereading the text to focus on how does the setting affect the plot. Be sure to cite text evidence to support your response. As you reread for this phase, we are looking at learning target number 6 to analyze how particular elements interact with each other within a story. In this case, we're looking at how the setting interacts with the plot. So as you're reading and you're coming up with your claim, which is your educated guess, making that claim in the form of an inference, conclusion, or generalization drawn from the text, make sure you also follow your claim with your cited text evidence that showcases the quote, word for word, that helps you to come to that conclusion that you're leading in your claim with. And then obviously follow that with your analysis portion. Now, your claim should begin as follows, because, and then give some features that you noticed within the setting. And then this affects the plot by, and then finish off that sentence with how those specific features of the setting, those things that you noticed, did in fact affect the plot within this piece. Remember, plot is those elements that surround the conflict, what that main conflict of the piece is, and how that conflict goes through a process from a rising action, climax, falling action to resolution. And there are going to be key features of the setting that really do impact and make that conflict go through that process of the plot all the way through the resolution. What are some of those key features you notice in this specific excerpt for that setting that helps to move that plot forward, move that conflict forward? And then again, make sure you're citing your evidence of those details that you notice, but make sure in your analysis where you're connecting what you noticed in that evidence, you're not just focusing on setting. You should be focusing on what are those notices of the setting that you see in the evidence, but also connecting it all the way back to that second element of how those setting elements do in fact impact that plot. So make sure you're addressing that part as well. Go ahead and work on this third day close reading of Uprising.